Hello and welcome to Iowa Primetime Live, Iowa at the voice of college football. And folks, we have a game day tomorrow night, just over 24 hours away from the Hawkeyes taking the field over at SHI Stadium in Piscataway, New Jersey, to open up Big Ten play against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. A Friday night game is always kind of a unique experience in college football because you're so used to playing on a Saturday, and then you have to adjust your entire schedule to go on a Friday, and people are getting off works and going places to watch the game, and it's unique, but it's pretty fun. So I'm looking forward to Iowa versus Rutgers tomorrow night. On the show tonight, though, we are going to be previewing that Iowa versus Rutgers game. Where does Iowa have the edge? Where are some areas to be concerned about? And at the end, we're going to give my prediction for who I think is going to walk out of Piscataway 1-0 in Big Ten conference play. But before we get started with the preview, want to ask you to follow us on all of our socials on X. You can follow me at Zach_Heine. You can follow my written work at Hawkeyes Wire. Make that your one-stop shop for everything Iowa athletics, news, updates, predictions, any and everything you could want with Iowa athletics at Hawkeyes Wire. For my written work, make sure you're checking that out. And then at the VOCFB, of course, for the voice of college football. Before we get into the game on the field, let's talk about the injury report for both of these teams, because there's a couple key names that are either in the lineup or not returning to the lineup for both of these teams that could have a big impact on who walks out of here tomorrow night with a Big Ten victory. We'll start with Iowa, and we know the usual injuries. Addison Ostranger with that Achilles, he's out for the season. Reese Vanderzee, with that foot injury, he is still out, and Kirk Ferentz at his weekly press conference made it seem like Reese Vanderzee was going to be out tomorrow or next week against Indiana as well. So probably after that bye week versus Wisconsin is your best bet for getting Reese Vanderzee back into the lineup. Jerry Bowie is out with an injury, and Kirk Ferentz for the first time actually spoke on Bowie's injury. And he said that it happened early in the offseason, and they're just trying to, figure out what kind of treatment he needs, where he is, what he needs to do to get back on the field. It was our first time hearing an update on Jerry Bowie, who's been out all season long. And it was not the kind of update that makes you feel like, he's going to be returning to the field anytime soon, unfortunately. Hope that that's the case, but it sounds like Jerry Bowie might be out longer than we had expected. Offensive lineman Bryce George is not going to play in this game with that left arm elbow injury. But then the running back room is really where we saw the dominoes begin to fall this week. As we knew, we saw Xavier Williams leave the UMass game with an injury. His arm was in a sling on the sidelines, and to many people's, including mine, a surprise, he was listed on the initial depth chart on Monday as a backup to Terrell Washington Jr., which is shocking to me because, you see someone with their arm in a sling like you saw with Kamari Moulton in week one, you assume that they're not going to play in the following week. But Williams was on there on Monday, and then the very next day at Kirk Ferentz's press conference, Kirk said that he's out for a couple of weeks with an injury. So I don't know if there was just some gamesmanship with that depth chart or if there was a mistake, but Xavier Williams is out with that injury he suffered in the UMass game. But with good news on the injury front, Kamari Moulton, who left after that first drive against Albany back in week one, it seems like he's going to return tomorrow night against Rutgers. The sophomore running back was Iowa's starting running back on their initial week one depth chart. Then he went down after the first series. He was good on that first series. Went down with that injury. His arm was in the sleeve. He didn't know how long he was going to be out. Seems like he might be returning tomorrow night, which is good. when you're down Xavier Williams. But the running back room for Iowa is one of the deepest on the team. When you have Terrell Washington Jr., when you have Jazz Patterson, you're getting Kamari Moulton back. You have Nathan McNeil, a freshman that's exciting. So I think you feel pretty good about that if you're Iowa. But getting Kamari Moulton back would be really big for this offense and this running attack, especially with that Rutgers rushing defense, which we'll talk about a bit later on in the show. But for Iowa, it's good to get Moulton back. Unfortunate for Xavier Williams, he's going to miss a bit of time. And then in the receiver room, Vander Zee and Bowie are going to miss some time as well. Rutgers is dealing with a litany of injuries. Some guys out for the season, some guys out for tomorrow night, and then a ton of guys that are questionable. But the biggest one for me that I'm keeping my eye on is wide receiver Ian Strong is questionable for Rutgers in tomorrow night's game. He missed their last game, a win over Norfolk State, with an undisclosed injury. Ian Strong has had a fantastic year for Rutgers. When you look at in just 2 games played this year, he has 16 catches for 216 yards and 2 touchdowns. A 6'3" junior. Ian Strong is really good, and Rutgers has a really deep wide receiver room and a trio of receivers that are going to give Iowa some trouble tomorrow night. So we'll see if Ian Strong is in the lineup, obviously hoping for good health for him. And, I would love to see him return tomorrow night so that Iowa can get that full challenge of trying to, cover Ian Strong, KJ Duff, the rest of that Rutgers receiving group. It's a strong group under Greg Schiano. And so that seems to keep an eye on for Rutgers wide receiver Ian Strong. Does he return tomorrow night or not? But let's jump into the preview of this game on the field. And we're going to start with Iowa's offense, because we always start with Iowa's offense, because Iowa's offense is the thing that has, drawn the most criticism and rightfully deserved criticism for the most part over the last couple of years. But the Hawkeyes have got some advantages going into this game against Rutgers offensively. And I think if you're looking for the biggest advantage in this game for Iowa, it's their rushing attack versus Rutgers' rushing defense. Rutgers has played Miami of Ohio, Ohio and Norfolk State. So not exactly a gauntlet of teams this season. And they're giving up over 150 rushing yards per game so far across those 3 games. That's not good. That's really not good considering the caliber of opponents. Iowa has rushed the ball very well this season so far, rushing for over 200 yards against Albany and UMass. Again, not great opponents, but still taking care of business there. Iowa's got the experienced offensive line with Logan Jones and Jennings Dunker and Bo Stevens. They've got the stable of running backs with Kamari Moulton returning, Terrell Washington Jr., Jazz Patterson, and the rushing quarterback, and Mark Gronowski. And we saw in Rutgers season opener versus Ohio that the Ohio quarterback, Parker Navarro, was able to run for almost 100 yards on the ground against that Rutgers defense. That's an advantage for Iowa if I'm going in this game. Mark Gronowski can move. We've seen him be mobile. He can take off. They run, design quarterback play, draw plays and run plays for Mark Gronowski. That's going to be a weapon. Iowa, I think, could really dominate with their rushing game, with the offensive line, with the running backs, with the quarterback run as well. I think Iowa's in a good spot to really, take care of business in that sense in this matchup, which would be huge. Because when you establish the line of scrimmage, when you establish the running game, more times than not, you're going to win a football game. And I think Iowa's got the big advantage there offensively. Now, the question on everyone's mind always with Iowa's offense is the passing game. What can Iowa do in the passing game? And I think it's fair to keep expecting at least marginal growth from that unit as we get into Big Ten play. We know what happened in the season opener versus Albany. That didn't go very well. And then Iowa State, that didn't really improve. Last week versus UMass, we saw some nice improvement, which was great. I think, how does it look tomorrow night against a Rutgers passing defense that has been, kind of lackluster so far in this season when you look at the caliber of their opponents. In that Ohio game, Parker Navarro, the Ohio quarterback, threw for 239 yards, was 21 of 31, 239 yards, and 3 touchdowns with no picks. In that Miami of Ohio game, their quarterback, Daquan Finn, was 14 of 23 for 251 yards, no touchdowns, and 1 pick. And then in the Norfolk State game, obviously a very overmatched opponent there. Otto Kuhns was a Norfolk State quarterback. He went 8 of 20 for 90 yards and a pick. So in their FBS opponents, we're looking at about 250 passing yards for both of those quarterbacks against this Rutgers defense. In addition to running the ball very well, there's going to be opportunities here for Iowa's offense to get it going through the air. I think Tim Lester and Kirk Ferentz are going to really try and establish that ground game to start. I think that's something that they really want to get going, and it's a big advantage as I talked about. Excuse me. And so I think Iowa wants to exploit that against Rutgers, and what better way to do that than to get it started early? So I assume Iowa will try and do that. But the passing game will come from there. Maybe a play action shot after you start running the ball very well. Maybe something where you get a screen or something like that to get a Sam Phillips in space with some blockers. I've been talking about that all year long. Just get the ball to your playmakers with some space. I don't know how many new wrinkles we're going to see on the road, but I expect Iowa's offense to do some decent things here. Rutgers defense is fine, but they're not world beaters at all. And I expect Iowa's offense to, run the ball well and do enough in the passing game to have a chance to win this football game. Now, for me, the 5-star matchup in this game is Iowa's defense versus Rutgers offense. Because we all know Iowa relies on their defense to win games a lot. And they have a tough matchup with Rutgers. Obviously, Iowa State was very difficult, but this game might even be more difficult. I think Rocco Beth is better than Nathan Kaliak-Manis, but I really like the Rutgers weapons around Kaliak-Manis. But it all starts with Ethan Kaliak-Manis is Rutgers quarterback, their senior quarterback, recruited by Iowa, by the way. Out of high school, a 3-star prospect, he decides to commit to PJ Fleck and the Minnesota Golden Gophers. He's there for 2 years, transfers to Rutgers, and it's really lit the world on fire his last 2 years at Rutgers, throwing for over 3,500 yards in 16 career games as a Scarlet Knight. I think he's got like a 38-7 touchdown to interception ratio. Like he's been a great quarterback for Rutgers over there, and he's off to a fantastic start in 2025 so far. He's completing 73% of his passes for 820 yards with 7 touchdowns and no interceptions. Kaliak-Manis has really, really been impressive running Rutgers offense, doing what they want to do. But the thing is, that's also a bit surprising, is that they're running the ball really well as well. Antoine Raymond on the season, the sophomore running back, has 248 rushing yards and 5 rushing touchdowns, averaging just under 6 yards per carry. He has been really good for Rutgers in that running back room. And they also have Samuel Brown, the 5th, as their backup running back. He has 201 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns on 5 yards a carry for Rutgers this year. And so they're deep at running back. They have a couple of guys that can really beat you there. I mentioned the wide receivers, Ian Strong with his numbers this year, but don't sleep on the other 2 guys as well. KJ Duff is actually Rutgers' leading receiver right now. 6 catches for 119 yards for the sophomore. He's 6'6" as well. 17 catches, 244 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, an insane matchup nightmare out there for Rutgers, and a big advantage for them in that passing game to go to him. And then they also have a DT Sheffield as well. The 5'10 senior, 12 catches, 201 yards, 2 touchdowns. The North Texas transfer traded in the mean green for the Scarlet Knights, and he has been impressive in that Rutgers offense. Like, there's some playmakers there for Ethan Kaliak-Manis, 2 running backs, 3 strong receivers. Rutgers is going to try and spread the ball out against this Iowa defense. I have no doubt about that. They are going to put a lot of pressure on that Phil Parker-led unit. And I think where I have the most concern with this matchup for Iowa is in that secondary. I've really been impressed with TJ Hall this year. He received a lot of hype this offseason from coaches and teammates and media members, and he has lived up to that hype this season so far. TJ Hall been really impressive for Iowa. But the other side, Deshaun Lee's kind of been up and down. Most of that's how he's been during his career so far, the junior. And I expect Rutgers to kind of try and attack Deshaun Lee at his side of the field, because you have TJ Hall playing well on one side, but then you have Deshaun Lee on the other side, who's kind of been up and down. And if you're Rutgers, you have 3 wide receivers that you feel comfortable with throwing out there against Lee, and seeing if they can win a matchup, whether it's Strong or Duff or Sheffield, and you have the quarterback to deliver those passes as well. And so if I'm Iowa, I'm a little worried about that. I might be trying to shade a safety over top of whoever Deshaun Lee's covering, whether that's Cohen Entringer or Xavier Wampa or even Zach Lutmer, getting him over there in some different in some different packages. Excuse me. I would consider that if I'm Phil Parker, a double team to help out Deshaun Lee over there. But a big game for Iowa's linebackers as well. Jaden Harrell and Carson Shire have, for the most part, been pretty good for Iowa this year. They're going to get a big test tomorrow against Ethan Kaliak-Manis. And I expect Rutgers, offense to put a lot of pressure on this Iowa defense. And it's going to be really important for that defensive line of Iowa to get home and get pressure. Because what you want to do is you want to throw Ethan Kaliak-Manis off of his first read. You want to get him off of his spot, put him under pressure, have him roll out, blow the play up against Kaliak-Manis and make him, make a play out of nothing. He can do that, but you feel a lot better about your chances of defending that than letting him sit back there, no pressure, make his first or second read and really dice you up all night long. So Iowa's defensive line, Aaron Graves, Max Lowe, and Ethan Herkett, and all of them up front there really need to make sure that they're not only getting pressure, but they're finishing off with sacks. And we saw them do a better job of that against UMass, still looking for a bit more consistency there. The other thing for Iowa's defense this game is forcing a turnover. It has been really wild that Iowa has gone 3 games in a row now to begin the season without forcing a turnover. That's crazy. That is, like, if you'd have told Iowa fans that before the season, they would have, thought you were lying. They would have thought you were making a joke. But there's no joke here. Iowa's defense has not forced a turnover. Iowa has 1 turnover forced this season, and it was the muffed punt against Iowa State. That's a little concerning. And if they don't force one tomorrow night and we go 4 games in a row, then I'm getting worried. But I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. They've come close on a couple of plays, some tip balls. Things just haven't gone their way yet. Tomorrow would be a great night to change that. Really be a great night to change that against Ethan Kaliak-Manis, who has not done a pick yet this season. But can you get 1 or 2 off of him, and set up your offense with a short field so they can put some points on the board? And because I have a feeling that this is going to be more of a lower scoring game. So every possession, every point is going to matter in this game. And so if you're Iowa's defense, can you set up your offense with that 1 short field? Just one short field where they can go down and put some points on the board. And that could be the difference between winning and losing the game. So I'm looking for Iowa's defense to force some turnovers tomorrow night and the rest of the season, and they will. Like the bounces are going to start coming their way for Iowa. No defense goes an entire 12-game season without forcing a turnover. It's going to happen here very soon. I would just love for Iowa to get that monkey off their back tomorrow night against Rutgers instead of having that linger into Indiana. And, you hope it doesn't get there, but have it linger into a bye week after that. Just get that first one and the floodgates will open with the turnovers for Iowa. I have no doubt about that. Let's move into the special teams for both of these teams. We know that Iowa traditionally has very strong special teams, but this year it's kind of been inconsistent for LeVar Wood's unit, which is not something that we say very often. Drew Stevens, for the most part, has been excellent. Hitting over 50-yard field goals has been great. Did miss a 38-yarder and an extra point against UMass, which is something that you hope is just kind of a blip on the radar and not a sign of something to come for Drew Stevens. But for the most part, he's been good. The return game, Caden Weechen's been kind of up and down. He was not great in the Iowa State game, but had a fantastic game against UMass, obviously with that 95-yard punt return touchdown. I trust Caden Weechen more times than not to come out and be great. So I think Iowa's going to have a nice advantage there. And then Reese Dakin has been great for Iowa as well. As he usually is, and as Iowa punters usually are. Like Iowa's punters do the job more times than not. With Rutgers special teams, the one thing that stood out to me was their first game against, or their last game against Norfolk State. They had 2 punt block touchdowns as a special teams unit, and that's concerning for Iowa because Iowa had a punt blocked against UMass on Saturday on a missed assignment. That's an advantage. I think if you're Rutgers that you're looking to exploit is Iowa's punt blocking. You see if you can get your hands on 1 or 2 of those punts and block them, because like I mentioned earlier, low scoring game, every point, every possession is going to matter. And if Rutgers can make the big play on special teams, that would do wonders for them. So if I'm worried about any area of special teams with Iowa, it's that and Rutgers' ability to block punts and to create havoc in those situations. Other units for Rutgers this year, they're kicking Jai Patel, a senior kicker from New Jersey himself. He's 5 for 5 on field goals this year, as long as 44 yards. He is 14 of 16 on extra points, though, on the season, which is a little odd that, he's missed 2 extra points as well. So that could be the difference as well. We saw Drew Stevens miss one last week. Rutgers kicker Jai Patel has missed 2 on the season. Low scoring game. Every point matters. Keep an eye on that in this matchup for both kickers. Rutgers punter Jacob Anderson, a sophomore from Australia, only has 2 punts this year. 42 yards and 44 yards on those 2 punts. So I was hoping to see Jacob Anderson out there a bit more this season than he has been. And he's been fine in those 2 punts, but it's kind of hard to tell with the small sample size. And then Rutgers has a couple of different guys that return kicks and punts. So it looks like Jason Benjamin has been doing kick returns for Rutgers this year. And I'm trying to find all of his return stats. I'm going to see if they give that to me. He has 3 returns for 64 yards on the season for Jason Benjamin. They also have Ben Black, a wide receiver out there doing some returns in the kicking game. And he has 3 returns for 61 yards, and nothing too crazy in the return game. At least for kickoffs for Rutgers, it looks like Has Sanders, a defensive back, is doing punt returns for the Scarlet Knights. I don't have those stats pulled up for him. He had 1 return for 23 yards against Ohio. So it looks like nothing too crazy in the return game for Rutgers. But again, blocking those punts. They've done that very well, and Iowa had one blocked against UMass. So keep an eye on that in this matchup. And then the coaching matchup is very fun as well. Obviously, Kirk Ferentz just became the all-time the all-time leader in wins by a Big Ten head coach. 206 career victories for Kirk Ferentz. You know, an incredible career for him. And Greg Schiano back at Rutgers now. I think he's in his 5th or 6th season after serving as the Ohio State defensive coordinator. Greg Schiano just fits well with that Rutgers culture. He knows how to recruit in that area and get these guys to come in and play hard at Rutgers. And they're not a laughingstock anymore. It's a legitimate Big Ten program over there. And a lot of credit has to be given to Greg Schiano for what he's done with that team and that program over there in Piscataway. And so it's a fun coaching matchup as well with these two head coaches who have been around for a long time in the Big Ten, who know Big Ten football and all of that. And so it's a lot of fun there for both of these teams. But what do I want to see in this game versus Rutgers from Iowa? What does Iowa need to do besides picking up a win? Obviously, you want to see that. But what does Iowa need to do to inspire some confidence heading into the rest of Big Ten play? I'll dive into that and my official prediction after this.
You can make a difference here at the Voice of College Football. Use the Amazon link. Financially contribute to the Voice of College Football without spending a penny. Same shopping experience. It's easy. Go to any video on any channel. Go to the description section and grab the link right next to the capital letters that say Amazon. Use that link and Amazon will instantaneously convert to your account, settings, history, everything intact, just like whatever link you use right now. No difference. Pay no attention to the product that you see right there. Just go search what you want. Don't forget the Amazon link. Thank you for your support. Sincerely, the Voice of College Football.
And thank you to Mark Rogers for that message. Obviously, you're watching Iowa at the Voice of College Football, Iowa Primetime Live. And before I get into the rest of my Rutgers preview, you might notice that I'm back here solo on the show once again. And I wanted to be honest and straightforward with everyone. So my good pal Josh, who works with us at Hawkeyes Wire and has been co-hosting the show since the beginning, is not going to be a permanent co-host on the show going forward. It's completely mutual between both parties. Josh also does high school sports broadcasting for his radio station. And so, that season's picking up with football and volleyball and those sports, basketball starting up here in a couple months for that radio station. And so a lot of those games are on Monday and Thursday nights. And it's just taking up that time for him and, not being able to do the show at the same time. And so Josh has moved on from the permanent co-host role. He still might guest star every now and again, make an appearance. But Josh has been wonderful on the show, Iowa Primetime Live, Iowa at the Voice of College Football. I wouldn't be here without him and his kindness to invite me onto the show. So I really appreciate what Josh has done for me and for this show as well. But I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be here Monday and Thursday nights at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, talking Iowa football and Iowa athletics as well. But I just wanted to be open and honest and transparent that if you're not seeing Josh on the show, every week, that's why. And so we move forward. Josh, we'll make a few guest appearances, some cameos every now and again to talk about Iowa athletics. But I'm going to be running the show solo as your host for the time being on this show. But I'm excited to keep bringing the energy, talking Hawks, and let's keep it going. It's our call-in show tonight as well. So I'm going to put the link into the chat. And if you want to hop on and, talk about Iowa versus Rutgers tomorrow night with me. Just hop into that link, put it into your phone or website browser, and it'll let you in backstage, and I'll bring you on. We can talk about some Hawks. But yeah, that is the situation currently, and I'm excited to just keep going with the show. Iowa Primetime Live, Iowa at the Voice of College Football. Make sure you're following me on X at Jack_Heine. Make sure you're following my written work at Hawkeyes Wire, and of course, the Voice of College Football at the VOCFB. Iowa versus Rutgers. What do I want to see tomorrow night for Iowa? I'm going to start offensively. I want to see Iowa dominate the line of scrimmage. I want to see Iowa really establish the running game. And I know it's not what people want to hear. People want the passing game to get going and the explosive plays. And I think that those will come, but you have such an advantage versus Rutgers on the ground that you'd be playing right into Rutgers' hands if you don't run the ball. Like Rutgers is kind of counting on Iowa to be a bit more aggressive in the passing game and to abandon the run because Rutgers has not defended the run very well this season. So I want to see Iowa dominate the line of scrimmage, get that going, and really show that they can do whatever they want in the running game versus this Scarlet Knights defense. And then working off of that, I want to see at least one, but hopefully multiple play action shots after you've established the running game. I'll take a shot, a play action, go deep to Sam Phillips or Seth Anderson or someone like that. Build off of that. Work off of Rutgers' aggressiveness to stop the run, and use it against them and beat them deep for a play action shot or two in this game. Really put pressure on that defense, on that Greg Schiano coached defense. And I think if you do that, I feel pretty good about Iowa putting up enough points to win this game. Where the game's going to be won or lost for me is Iowa's defense. Because, as I mentioned earlier, Rutgers' offense is legit. With the quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, they have got the weapons to beat you. So from Iowa's defense, I want to see them get to the quarterback, finish off pressures with sacks, and force at least 1 turnover. Please, for the love of everything holy, force 1 turnover at least. Please. So we can end that discussion on the season. And I think that they will. I really do. I think Iowa will force at least 1 turnover. I'm going to call 2 turnovers, actually, on the show right now. And I think if they do that and they finish off those pressures with sacks, I feel pretty good about Iowa's defense doing what they need to do to pick up the win. And then on special teams, just play a clean game of football. Just play clean. That's all I ask. Make the routine plays routinely if you're Iowa. Make your extra points. Make your field goals from within 45 yards. Don't miss an assignment while you're blocking for a punt. Make your special teams tackles. Make the for Caden Weechin and the returners, make sure that you're catching the ball and not putting it on the ground. Just play a clean game of special teams. It doesn't have to be outstanding. You don't have to win the game on special teams with a big return or a 55-yard field goal or anything like that. But just make the clean plays if you're Iowa special teams. If you do that, you feel pretty good about what they're going to be able to do in this game. I think the only scenario I see where Iowa really struggles is if Rutgers starts picking on Deshaun Lee offensively. And they just, they have a matchup. They put one of the receivers, Strong, Duff, or Sheffield over there, and they're just picking on Deshaun Lee all night long, and they're picking up big plays and maybe a big touchdown over the top. I think that's really the only scenario I could see where Iowa's defense really struggles is if Rutgers finds their mismatch and they just go after it all night long. And I trust Iowa's, and I trust Phil Parker to adjust if that's the case. But Rutgers' offense is going to be able to put up some points, but I think Iowa's defense can do enough to pick up the win. Now, who do I have winning this game tomorrow night? Friday night. Before the season, if you had asked a lot of Iowa fans about this game, a lot of them would have said that it's a trap game. because it has all the normal makings of a trap game. East Coast trip, short week for Iowa. A feisty Big Ten team and Rutgers, who's not a great team, but not the bottom of the barrel. They're not Purdue or Northwestern or UCLA. And it's got those makings of a trap game if you're Iowa. But I don't think that it is a trap game because Iowa hasn't played well enough, at least offensively, for this to be a trap game. Rutgers has the momentum. They've got that home crowd behind them. It's going to be a raucous crowd. It is sold out there at SHI Stadium in Piscataway. But I don't think it's a trap game because Rutgers has been playing good football, and Iowa is still trying to find their identity. At least offensively, they are. And so expect Rutgers to throw the first punch. I think that's going to happen tomorrow night. I think Rutgers is going to score first. It might even be the opening drive. We've seen Iowa's defense, when they've been elite, allow a team to walk right down the field on the opening drive and score. And then Phil Parker makes the adjustments and they lock in and things are a lot better. And so expect it. Don't be surprised. Don't panic if Rutgers walks down the field and takes a 3-0 lead, a 7-0 lead early in the game, rides that home crowd. I have faith that Iowa will settle in under Kirk Ferentz. I have faith that, they're going to get the running game going. They'll have Mark Gronowski make a play or two in the passing game, and that defense is going to force some turnovers. It's going to be close. On the road, it always is. Iowa never really runs away with these games. Rutgers is a great team, great environment over there. They're going to be ready to go on a Friday night. It's on Fox. Should be a really fun atmosphere. But I got Iowa overcoming a fast start from Rutgers and winning 24-17 over the Scarlet Knights. I just think Iowa's just the better team, I think. I really do believe that. And I believed it before the season, and I still believe it now. I understand that there's a lot of reasons to be concerned about Iowa, especially offensively, and what they haven't shown in the passing game. But I think it's going to start coming around here. I really do. Mark Gronowski, as I said, when he was struggling, I'm going to say it again right now, coming off of a decent game, the dude has won 51 college starts. He's thrown for thousands and thousands of yards and so many touchdowns in his career. He didn't forget how to throw the football. It's a new team. It's a new environment. It's a new scheme. It's a new system for Mark Gronowski. And I think just giving it time, giving it, him a chance to gel with this new team, with these new receivers. And I think we start to see the next evolution, the next stage of that Iowa passing game tomorrow night, where they are making a few plays down the field to complement the running game. I really do believe that. I think he's going to be a big reason why Iowa wins on the road 24-17 and starts out Big Ten play 1-0, which will be huge, especially with Indiana coming to town next weekend before the bye week. And I've got Iowa winning 24-17. Let's talk very quickly before I wrap it up about the rest of the Big Ten slate this weekend, because there's some big games in the Big Ten this week and games that will affect Iowa. Games that have opponents on Iowa's schedule going forward that they're going to play. And we want to see how they look. And so I'm really curious to see what happens there. But I'm excited for this slate of Big Ten games. Obviously, Iowa versus Rutgers tomorrow night, the only Friday Big Ten game on the slate this week. But before we get into the rest of those predictions, I want to get into the comments because we have a lot of people in here with things to say. My man Kelvin Fisher, miss Josh too. Yes, Josh was a great co-host on here, and he'll be on for a guest appearance every now and again and a cameo here or there. So you haven't seen the last of Josh talking Iowa here on Iowa at the Voice of College Football. Darren Meyer says, "Go Hawks!" Yes, indeed. Joe, I can see Rutgers going 3-and-out or getting picked. That wouldn't really surprise me either. I think Iowa's defense could give up a touchdown or some points there early, but it wouldn't surprise me either if they come out and try to quiet up that road crowd and get a stop to begin the game, or even get that turnover that we've been clamoring for all show long. So wouldn't put anything past that Iowa defense. Jason in the chat, has Gronowski ever faced a Big Ten opponent at 8 p.m. sold out crowd? You're not afraid for him? I'm sure Mike Gronowski has played some primetime games on the road. Obviously not, a Big Ten opponent, but he did play at Iowa State, which is a tough place to play, especially in that in that rivalry game. And he was better. He wasn't great in that game by any sense, but I don't think he's the reason why they lost that game on the road. And so, he hasn't played a Big Ten team at 8 p.m. with a sold out crowd, but we'll see what happens tomorrow night. Jason also says it already takes Gronowski nearly 4 seconds to throw the ball. Yeah. Not getting through his reads in enough time is certainly an issue with him. And Iowa's offensive line giving him time to throw is great. I'll take that as a good thing out of that. But Mark Gronowski needs to make his reads quicker and more efficiently for sure to get into conference play here. But I am curious with that sold out crowd, how many of those tickets are Iowa fans? We know Iowa fans travel pretty well, so I'm curious how many Hawkeye fans make the trip over to Piscataway for that game. And it wouldn't surprise me if we get 20 to 25% of the people in that stadium as Iowa fans. That wouldn't surprise me at all, actually. So we'll see how that looks. Jason says, I'm a big Rutgers guy, by the way. Rutgers off to a great start this season. I've talked about it. They're playing really well. Ethan Kelly-McManus is a fantastic quarterback, and those wide receivers are really good. So it's going to be a really fun game tomorrow night. I can't wait. Friday Night Football, under the lights, Big Ten play, nothing better. Prisoner's Dilemma says Gronowski isn't a good downfield passer. He wasn't at South Dakota State. He won't be at Iowa. I think he can be a good downfield passer. I think the scheme has definitely hurt him here early, and the lack of aggressiveness for sure. I'm not ruling it out after 3 games. What's pretty nice, throwing downfield to Sam Phillips last week to open the game, about a 45-yard completion. I just think Iowa needs to trust him to do that. I think that's really important for Tim Lester, and we saw that they didn't trust him in that Iowa State game, and they really took the ball out of his hands, and they lost that game. So I think Mark Gronowski can throw downfield. Obviously, he's not launching 55-yard bombs every other play, but when asked upon when the play is run well, I trust Mark Gronowski to make the play down the field. So I'm not going to rule it out just yet after a couple games. And Jason says Iowa is going to have a portion of the stadium on a corner of the end zone, maybe more than Washington last year, but probably 85-15. Yeah, we'll see. 85-15, 80-20, somewhere in that range is probably fair. Rutgers fans are going to be there. They're going to be packing out the stadium. It's a huge game for Rutgers, absolutely massive game for them in terms of trying to really arrive on the stage this year. If they beat Iowa, they're going to feel really good about where they're at heading into the rest of the 2025 season. So Rutgers fans know that, and they'll show up for that. As Jason said, Washington was pretty underwhelming last time at our blackout. That's very far from Rutgers. Yeah, Washington didn't play super well at Rutgers last year, and they didn't play very well at Iowa last year either. So I'm not sure if that's just the long cross-country travel for these old Pac-12 teams. We saw Iowa travel to UCLA last year, a bad UCLA team, and lose that game. So I think the travel across country is huge for those old Pac-12 teams. And then the Big Ten teams are going on the road to play those teams. And so, it definitely plays a factor 100% with that. As Jason Thompson, yeah, it's our Super Bowl. Big game for Rutgers. They haven't beaten Iowa yet. Iowa's 4-0 against Rutgers since they joined the Big Ten. And so that is something that Rutgers is trying to get off their back with that bad recent history versus Iowa. And we'll see if they can, make those adjustments tomorrow night. As Darren chimes in, turnovers and physicality take over the game. Yeah, it just takes one or two plays there, a tipped ball, a forced fumble on a sack to make that play. And so, I think it usually comes down to a turnover here or there in which defense makes the big play. As Darren chimes in, Aaron Graves, 3 sacks. I would love to see that. Aaron Graves can definitely do that. He's got 1 this year. Max Llewellyn has 3 sacks on the season to begin 2025. So we'll see. Iowa needs to get some pass rush and finish off with some sacks. 100% about that. And so hoping that they can do that tomorrow night. As Jason says, I know Iowa hasn't been great on the road lately too. Yeah, Iowa struggled a bit on the road. They lost at Iowa State earlier this year. You think about last year, they lost at Michigan State, UCLA on the road. It's definitely, it's definitely a part of that. So we'll see if Iowa can. I'll see if Iowa can get things on the right track with their road record tomorrow night. Prisoners dilemma. Iowa is facing their first quality offense. Hard to predict the outcome here. I wouldn't say their first quality offense. I think Iowa State's offense is pretty good. I mean, they beat Iowa. Rocco Beth is a fantastic quarterback. Rocco Beth is a better quarterback than I think Kaliak Manis is. And Iowa State's tight ends are better than Rutgers tight ends. And I think their offensive line is better than Rutgers offensive line. I think Rutgers has the advantage at wide receiver and running back, obviously, but I think Iowa State's a quality offense, and Iowa did pretty well against them. They made Rocco Betts look human after he, put the Superman cape on for those first couple of games of Iowa State's season. So, I feel pretty good about that. As Jason chimes in, gotta hope Ian Strong is healthy and able to go. He didn't play last week, probably because we were playing Norfolk State. Yep, I mentioned Ian Strong earlier on in the show. He is crucial for that Rutgers offense. Their top wide receiver in those first 2 games. He is fantastic at 6'3", and so we'll see if he's able to play. Sounds like he's going to be able to play, as Jason says, but CJ Campbell, the running back, likely won't, and they're on to the 4th left tackle now. Yes, the left tackle injuries and the injuries along the offensive line for Rutgers have been a problem this season. So all the more reason for Iowa's defensive line to really dominate up front and get some pressure on Ethan Kaliak Manis. As Darren chimes in, 27-14 Hawkeyes on the road. Iowa winning 24-17. It's going to be a close game. Should be a lot of fun. The rest of the Big Ten slate this week, we've got some fun games here. No doubt about that. Maryland at Wisconsin. We'll see. I'm not sure if Billy Edwards Sr. is back for Wisconsin this week. Maryland's playing well. It's in Madison, though. They're going to be jumping around up there. A chance for Maryland to get a big signature win. Wisconsin trying to bounce back from losing to Alabama last weekend. I think Wisconsin wins at home. If this game was at Maryland, I think I'd pick Maryland, but I'm picking Wisconsin here at home. Oregon hosting Oregon State. Oregon's going to win by 1 million. Oregon State has been terrible this year, and Oregon's been super impressive. Michigan at Nebraska. Give me Michigan to go on the road. I do worry a bit about Bryce Underwood and and playing on the road in that Lincoln crowd. I just think Michigan is a better team, and Nebraska, and until Nebraska shows it against a quality Power 4 team, I'm gonna not believe. Brian, and maybe I'm just being biased. Maybe it's the Iowa fan in me with the Nebraska hate, but I wait until I see it first before I start believing. Purdue at Notre Dame. Notre Dame is going to completely wash the floor with Purdue. Notre Dame's 0-2, but they're mad that they're 0-2, and they've lost really close games to some great teams. Purdue is not a good team at all. Notre Dame is going to completely take care of business at home against Purdue. No doubt about that. I'll get back to this game because it's the game of the night in the Big Ten. But Washington at Washington State, that's a game that's got Washington written all over it. Washington State has not been very good in their two-team Pac-12 this year. So I've got Washington winning that game. And then Michigan State at USC, late night road game over there. Give me USC. They've been playing really well. It's hard for these East Coast teams to go on the road to the West Coast and pick up a win. So I'm choosing USC to take care of business against Michigan State. But the game of the day in the Big Ten, Illinois at Indiana over in Bloomington, a 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time kickoff. And number 9, Illinois, number 19, Indiana. Of course, Iowa is going to play Indiana next weekend. So we're going to learn a lot about the Hoosiers before they come to town. But really fun matchup there. Seeing a couple of Big Ten contenders potentially. Illinois trying to prove that they belong in the top 10 after not really playing anyone outside of Duke this year. And then Indiana looking for that big signature victory. Like they got a few last year under Kirk Cignetti. I got Illinois going on the road and winning, though. I just think Illinois is a slightly better team. I love Brett Bielema and what he's doing there. Luke Altmaier is an experienced quarterback who's not going to be phased going on the road to a tough environment. And I got Illinois just taking care of business on the road and proving that they are a top 10 to top 15 team nationally this year. I think Illinois goes on the road and beats Indiana before the Hoosiers come to town next weekend for Indiana versus Iowa. We've got T. Hink hopping in to the show tonight, a longtime listener and viewer, and he's hopped on with me and Josh a couple of other times, and so excited to hear what he has to say about Iowa versus Rutgers tonight. T. Hink, how are you doing tonight, my man?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited for this Friday night game. I love the Friday night atmosphere. Like obviously, I love playing on Saturdays, and that's how I prefer for most of the year. But a Friday night game every now and again, in September, I love it.
I agree. I look forward to these one-off instances where Iowa plays on a Friday night. I think it's kind of fun. You get a whole Saturday to not or watch other games, and I feel like whenever Iowa plays on Saturday, you watch the Iowa game, and then you're just done for the rest of the day. You don't want to watch any more football. So it's kind of nice being on Friday where you can have a day on Saturday to watch everything and not be held back on Iowa.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like it should be an interesting game tomorrow. You may have already talked. I hopped on late, but
no, all good.
I'm looking forward to seeing if the offense can take a next step or keep up the momentum what they had on last Saturday, or if they'll just drop right back down to what they did against Iowa State. I could see it going back down to normal where it's conservative ball. But what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think this is a game that we learn a lot about Iowa, and the result of this game is going to tell me at least if Iowa is an 8 to 9 win team or if they're a 6 to 7 win team.
I agree.
And if they go on the road and they beat Rutgers, I think you feel pretty good about them taking care of business against the Wisconsin and the Minnesota, and then you just start counting wins to get to 8 or 9. But if they lose this game, I think there's a lot of concern. I think there's no one's going to be picking them to beat Indiana, Penn State, or Oregon, and then you have concerns about those other swing games. And so this game is huge for Iowa, and to see how they come out, I think they'll be better than they were at Iowa State. I think some of the pressure of the rivalry game is big as well. And, I don't know why, but Iowa played like they had a lot of pressure on them, even though they should have been going in with the underdog mindset, right, and with nothing to lose. I think that's kind of how they're going in to this game tomorrow night against Rutgers. I think all the pressure's on Rutgers being at home, sold out crowd, looking for a big signature victory. And so I want to see Iowa go on the road and play it loose and just play to win the game.
I was going to say, I hope the defense can force a turnover tomorrow. They haven't forced one all season. I think that's one of the major keys. Getting Ethan Kaliak-Manis in trouble will help benefit Iowa in the long run in this game. I'm with Prisoner's Dilemma in the chat. He says, I hope Indiana wins, which I hope so as well. That game would be so much better if it's Indiana undefeated. It does look like Indiana is going to be favored in this game or
Yeah.
next week. They're a favorite, I think, 3. I think Iowa's 3-point underdogs at home. So I hope Iowa can win this game, and then I think the Indiana game, if they win this weekend, Indiana game can be a season game, or like it can really set up the season very well if they can
A
win this Friday.
season-changing win. Yeah.
Yeah, season-changing win. I think if they can win Friday, it sets up the season the rest of the way. If they lose Friday, I just think the ship can just sail on them real fast because I mean it's not getting any easier after Rutgers. You got Indiana, which is going to be a top. If they win Saturday, they're gonna be a top 15 team.
Yeah.
If they already are, but yeah, and if they lose I know we're looking further ahead, but if they lose to Indiana, they're just gonna have another talks, or they're just gonna talk about how Iowa can't be the top 25 team since 2021. So
Yep.
I know we're looking ahead a long ways for that, but I hope Iowa takes care of business this week and can get it done. I know they done fairly well in Piscataway, and I think they'll do pretty good tomorrow. But
Yeah.
hopefully they come out with a win. I don't care if it's close or conservative, as long as they can win. I guess. I mean, I'm not going to get used to Iowa trying to be changing the offensive scheme and like throwing the ball 30 times. It's not going to happen. So I guess under Kirk's watch, just get the win. I guess, and I guess if you win, I guess it just winning solves everything, I guess, and I just hope they just win.
The win is a win is a win. It's really been the mantra for Kirk Ferentz's tenure at Iowa, and just however you can get it done, going especially on the road too. It's not really this isn't really a game for style points for Iowa. Like if it takes you running the ball 45, 50 times to get the win, then you do that. Like you're in conference play now. It was nice last week to go out and beat UMass and kind of try and put a show on for those home fans. But now you're in conference play. Like you just got to win the game. And if running the ball a lot puts you in the best position to win the game, which I think it does for Iowa this week, then I'm fine with that.
I agree. I think Iowa needs to rely on the run game this week. Do you think we see some slow mesh this week, or do you think it's going to be more of an RPO type game? Because
I hope more of a slow mesh. It was working. It was working against Iowa State, and then they ran it twice and have not run it again.
Right. I wasn't expecting them to run it against UMass just because of the opponent, but I don't think I was going to run it in their scripted plays, which I think they should. But I know it's very hard to it's got to be perfect. Like you cannot do something wrong or it just throws the whole scheme out of the way. But
yeah,
I just hope to see that, and maybe we won't. But I hope showing something different to a defense. It's way better than what just doing the same old run pass garbage that we're accustomed to. But I mean, I don't have much left on Rutgers. I think it's probably one of the easier games on the schedule in the Big Ten that we play this year. I think Iowa gets it done this week, 23-10.
All right, 23-10.
Yeah,
there we go. All right, final prediction there. Thank you for hopping on, T. Hink. And
no problem. I have one more thing, and then I can hop off.
Yep, you go right ahead.
I know we're looking forward, but the basketball schedule came out this week or today.
Mm-hmm.
Gauntlet for Ben McCollum.
Oh, it's terrible. I mean, it's Purdue on there twice. You open at Michigan State.
Maryland.
I think three of your final five are road games. It's going to be a tough schedule. We're gonna learn a lot about Ben McCollum and his coach teams in this first year at Iowa, and we'll see. I'm excited. It's one of the first times in the last couple of years, probably since that 2022 team that I've been really excited to watch Iowa basketball. Since since those Keegan Murray and Jordan Bohannon teams. Just really looking forward to Iowa basketball this year. It should be a blast.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a different setup for Iowa men's basketball. I don't think we're going to see the 100-point games like we're accustomed to. I think it's going to be slow it down, play some defense, and I think we're going to be the old Wisconsin. Let's just put it that way. And I'll
Yeah.
leave it at that.
Yeah, I have nothing wrong. I have no problem with that at all. No problem whatsoever. I'm excited for that.
I am too.
Excited for basketball.
I get to a couple games for Iowa men's basketball. I know when
Yeah.
they're playing Des Moines, I'll be there. So
Yeah.
I get to one other game. It'll be a kind of fun season. But
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that, and we'll talk more basketball as the season gets closer. But
no doubt about that. No doubt. Thank you for hopping on.
no problem.
Enjoy the game tomorrow night.
You as well, and hope everyone has a good night. And go Hawks.
Go Hawks. There you have it from the man himself. We are just about at time here, so I'm gonna wrap it up with a couple more comments, and I'm gonna hit the road for some Thursday night football tonight. Bills and Dolphins up in Buffalo should be a fun game to check out. Andrew Hodge says it's my issue giving Gronkowski time. Then Iowa gets to the end of the year. He finally gets things down and he's out of eligibility. Yeah, it sucks. He's only got 1 year of eligibility. And so, hopefully if he's able to figure it out and Iowa wins some big games, I think he'll be, pretty happy with what he's been able to do and what he was able to bring, hopefully, to the Iowa offense. As Darren says, we need to show that we can pass. Very, very important for the future. I agree. I think that they will. I think tomorrow night, Iowa has an advantage in the Rutgers or in the running game against Rutgers, and so I'll see if they are able to exploit that tomorrow. As George chimes in, Rutgers got a Friday night win last year against a solid Washington team. Kelly McManus and this offense is the real deal. I agree. Great offense over there in Piscataway. It's going to be a real challenge for Iowa to win this game. And then Darren chiming in, excited for new men's basketball. Me too. I'm looking forward to that here in the near future. Thank you all for tuning in to Iowa Primetime Live. I will be back on Monday night, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time to, recap Iowa versus Rutgers. What did we learn? How did that game turn out? And begin to look ahead to a big game with Indiana next weekend. But for now, enjoy the game tomorrow night, Iowa fans. And as always, go Hawks.